Hello, class. Thanks for joining us. With me today is Samantha Fow. She is fascinated by the disruptive nature of technology, and her focus on environmental advocacy is a natural extension of her training and education in environmental policy, as well as her passion for the nature and the outdoors. After completing her undergraduate studies in economics, Samantha went on to earn a JD, a master's in energy regulation and law, and an LLM in environmental law from Vermont Law School. Samantha founded technical writing and digital marketing company Axiom Communications in 2017, and she continues to advocate for positive social and environmental change as a writer, facilitator, teacher, and speaker. She has a new book coming out in about a month, which you can find on Amazon, titled Be Decent: Environmental Activism 2.0. More importantly, Samantha is a champion. She's a fighter, an example of what you can do when you have the courage to listen to your heart. She's a person of personal resilience, an example of a community leader, and a personal friend. Samantha, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule from all the things you're doing to talk to my class today. Maybe just for starting off, I'd like to have the students understand a bit more about who you are. For example, most people, when asked this question, they might respond, well, I'm a lawyer, or I'm a retail manager. They tell us who they are by what they do. But I'd like them to understand a bit more about who you are. And to make it easy, when I get asked this, one of the first things I answer is, well, I'm a soldier, right? Because I spent my formative years in the Army. It gave me a lot of my morals and ethos that affect me to this day. So, Samantha Fow, who are you?
First of all, thank you, Professor, for that glowing introduction. I mean, it really, it reflects so much on, how you see people, as does this question. I could not agree more. I think so often, people, identify themselves based on what they do, rather than who they are. These two things are, of course, a reflection of one another, but certainly not the same thing. And I would say, who I am first and foremost is an advocate. I am somebody who encourages people to achieve empowerment. In my life, this is true across my personal relationships. Anyone who knows me personally, I think, could really speak to that, as well as, out in public, in the public domain, in my writing, in other creative, video, multimedia content. And sharing and creating content about things that really, I believe, are important to see in society. Things about equality, feminism, progress towards a safer, healthier, cleaner society, and specifically in my little niche, in my little sort of spotlight in the wide world of activism. Tech-enabled environmental activism. It's kind of an interesting thing, but I really believe that we have to have more conversations about what we can do ourselves with the tools that we have in our hands, with our networks and our communities, to address environmental problems. That's what I'm advocating about right now.
Thank you very much. That sounds like a really fascinating life experience, and it does describe, I truly believe, who you are. So to get to who you are, you came from somewhere, and maybe you could talk about how your undergraduate degrees and your graduate degrees kind of helped form who you are. And when speaking to that, if you could describe if you ever took an environmental law and regulations class, and how that's affected your ability to effectively do your passion.
Totally. So, oh my gosh, I would say education has been a major part of my personal development in addition to my professional development. It has shaped my perspective of the world. And as we all know, our unique perspectives impact our reality. How we experience life is shaped by what we know and what we've seen and what we felt. And the fact that I have had the great opportunity and honor to achieve so much in the academic world has really been instrumental, I think, in shaping me as who I am today. So Oh my gosh, there are actually a number of degrees and credentials on my resume. I began as an undergraduate student. I have a bachelor's in economics. I chose that degree because oddly, I started as a psychology major. There's an alternative universe where Samantha is a research psychologist right now. I was just always fascinated by people and, what they do and why, and, all those things. And I thought, psychology is sort of the most, the direct indicator of personal activity and personal beliefs. But I really found that in our society, America is a capitalist society. And so economics is a little bit more indicative of human behavior from what I saw. So I changed my major, and I started out as, it was really kind of like, strict in terms of, just kind of pure academic ivory tower economic theory. And that's been an interesting place to come to the world of environmental policy and regulation from, which is what I studied as a JD. And then again, in my LLM studies, Master's of Law, which is the terminal degree in law, right? Like, for some reason, lawyers do it backwards, like where everyone else gets a master's and then a doctorate, lawyers get a Juris Doctorate and then a Master's of Laws or whatever, fine. But it's coming from a background of, okay, why do we regulate markets? In what circumstances is this necessary? Where is it a positive for economic development and sustainability and growth? The fact of the matter is that, pollution and climate change are kind of systemic problems, right? These are things that are naturally resulting from the way that we have created our societies and our economies. And, that's kind of where it meshes. And, then I have a final degree, which is a master's in energy regulation and law, which I was actually afforded the opportunity to receive through a research fellowship with the Vermont Law School Energy Clinic, which is a really cool program that I actually kind of, was involved with from the very inception, that allows students the opportunities to do experiential learning in energy regulation, policy creation, climate change, even renewable energy development projects. And so, I think that really goes to show that as much as I love academics and I love the ivory tower, and maybe in some other phase in my career, I'll be a professor and I'll do all, kind of in that whole space. But I right now am just such a believer in making on the ground change and really showing people that you can do a lot just with what you have already.
That's incredible. Thank you so much. I'm sure a lot of students will find helpful tidbits in there because they're also trying to figure out which degree is best for them, which suits them. I find it interesting that you started off in psychology and switched to a much more discrete degree. It seems usually college students start off with something a lot more discrete and move into something more broad. But it's completely understandable if you do want to understand human behavior, especially in the United States, more importantly, even globally. We function as a capitalistic world and we move based on incentives. And I think that's a lacking point of a lot of environmental activism, is not understanding how the market forces work. And more importantly, if you understand how they work, you can shape them to move in the direction that you want them to go. So have you ever thought about potentially reconsidering your career path? And if not, what's kept you motivated and dedicated to endeavor towards these career goals?
Well, I will say that I every so often will be tempted to kind of pack it in and work in-house somewhere. Kind of a sellout, really. It's a sellout dream, but I don't do it. It's not serious. I think that being an entrepreneur and being in the space that I'm in is what I'm meant to do in this world. It's truly as much of a personality characteristic and a fate than it is a career path. And I am so truly grateful for the opportunity to wake up every day and pursue my passion, and not just cash a paycheck, but really be able to feel good about my contribution to the world and my contribution to society. And I'm 100% sure that whatever career I may end up in, that's going to be a characteristic to it.
I certainly agree. Samantha, I see you eventually being a hero to a lot of people who are, inspired to take a different path in life rather than the traditional go to college, get the degree, get a job. You really followed your passion, your heart, and you've turned it into something, and it's incredible. So if you had to name a hero of yours, who would you choose and why?
Well, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg is may she rest in peace, truly, is my personal hero. There's receipts on that. I talk about her all the time across my, and her life is one that was defined by slow, committed progress, hard work for years, decades, generations that culminated in great change. She made this world a better place, 100% without question. And I'm really committed to doing the same. And so she's my hero in that regard. Women specifically who changed the world. And I just kind of measure her impact as exponential, right? Her legacy it really has made America a better place to live, truly. So she is my personal hero out there, like in the ether. Otherwise, I will say, my friends and the people in my network are so, I admire them. I am so honored to have the opportunity to surround myself with people professionally and personally who inspire me in so many ways. I really live by the, many mantras, one of which is like, don't be a hater, be an appreciator, and so whenever, I see or am around, anyone who's doing something new or trying to pursue their passion, I just love it and I'm inspired by that. And, so I'm fortunate to be surrounded by heroes. Heroes are everywhere.
That's fantastic. That's a great outlook on life too. Probably is what kept you reaching for greater heights for yourself. And I have to agree with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She's an inspirational woman, and I love the characteristic and testimony that she left behind, which is don't accept what society says you should do because of your gender, your sex, or whatever. If you have a passion, if you have a goal, you go after it. And don't listen to people telling you that it can't be done or it hasn't been done, and that can be really discouraging. If you just push that to the wayside and give it a go, you'll be surprised at how far you can go. And speaking of long, grueling, slow change, you have a new book coming out, and I know that's not an easy process. Would you mind just telling the class a bit about Environmental Activism 2.0? Why did you decide to write it? What's a quick blurb on it, and what do you hope that it achieves? Sure.
Thank you. Oh gosh. And I really appreciate how you did characterize it accurately as a long, intensive process that has involved a lot of work and a lot of moving parts, even outside the creative process. The book itself, Be Decent, Environmental Activism 2.0, it's about green tech. Like that's sort of like, the short phrase. But specifically, it's about decentralized technology, decent tech. Decentralized technology is technology that exists outside of centralized control. So, the example that I give often of like centralized technology is like, like your iPhone, right? Your iPhone has literally hundreds of independent pieces of intellectual property that are owned and vigorously defended in courts of law as necessary by the Apple Corporation. The same thing with, a lot of the enterprise technology that we use through Google and Microsoft and things like that, right? It's centralized. It all operates through like these massive buildings of servers that, are owned by these big tech companies. But there is this really exciting and blossoming field, in technology, which I've had the good fortune of being able to work in through Axiom Communications. That's called decentralized technology, right? Decent tech. Decentralized technology is grassroots. It's originated through innovation. It includes things like blockchain technology. Blockchain technology exists in the public domain. Anyone can create a blockchain project on their own with some experimentation and some basic training. And this has really created an uprising of some really exciting, sort of like tech for good applications. And since my space is environmental activism, environmental advocacy, environmental policy, my professional career has really brought me into the world of technology. I'm, bringing these things together in a resource for everyone out there to use to really see like, okay, yeah, these are the real solutions that are out there to, the systemic infrastructural failures that are threatening our environmental health and safety every day.
This sounds like an incredible read, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. I know it'll be available, I believe, in March on Amazon. Is that correct?
March 31st, yes. I am so excited. As I said, this has been the culmination of truly, years of hard work. I'm just so incredibly proud of the final product. And I think that, people are really going to receive it well, because even as I have these conversations, the responses that I'm getting is like, oh my gosh, wow, I didn't even know. For some reason, green tech has been a little bit of a niche. And it really has not entered it's in its own right into the world of environmental activism and environmental advocacy. And I just really want to have those conversations. So, in the meantime, come and check me out on my website, bedecentbook.com. You can also find me at bedecentbook across all the major social medias, Facebook, Instagram, all that. And you know what? You can reach me there. You can actually start a conversation and ask me questions and engage with me about green tech. It's really about advocacy, which is, having conversations with people about, things that are important, right? I mean, that's really where it starts. So reach out, we'll have a conversation.
That's wonderful. Thank you for making yourself available to the students. I know a lot of them do have interest in green tech, particularly a lot of my students have interest in policy, environmental policy. And one of the topics that we discussed during this semester is the tragedy of the commons. And so as part of that, in the book that we're reading, in the textbook, the author gives us 5 Ps of environmental policy that can aid in overcoming the tragedy of commons. So Samantha, if someone were to say on maybe, I don't know, an examination, an environmental class, what are the 5 Ps of environmental policy that can aid in overcoming the tragedy of the commons? What would you say?
I would say the 5 Ps are prescriptive regulation, property rights, penalties, payments, and persuasion. And I can tell you, as somebody who has really been, working a career that's committed to kind of, through the system that we have, with the tragedy of the commons that is resulting in climate change, that is resulting in pollution, that is resulting in waste management failures, that is resulting in all sorts of environmental health and safety issues. Prescriptive regulation and property rights are critical just from that baseline economic regulation perspective, right? This is what the textbooks have told us for literally generations. Penalties have to be real because we have all seen it. Anyone who has actually worked in environmental justice, environmental litigation, environmental advocacy has seen ongoing violations that are just a page, just a payment made every single month.
Right.
And so the penalties are not high enough, and the payments are not high enough. They are simply not effective. And of course, persuasion, which is what I do, obviously important, right? It's about convincing people that, these problems are real, first of all. These problems are actually affecting you and the people that you care about. And you know what, even more so, there is something we can do about it. And, it's critical. And it's so much of what I do every day.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Samantha. I'm sure our students will appreciate that. On the lines of persuasion, in today's world with mass media and very divisive roles in politics and politicians, it seems often that environmental activism and capitalism are at very opposite ends, and the people are very different with different goals and objectives. Do you see hope for a capitalist society to support the web of ecology and economy? And if so, what role can persuasion or future policymakers use to see this come to fruition? I would presume technology might be the one that brings them together, but maybe you could expand on that.
Yes, so without question, I do see hope. I am a frustratingly characteristic optimist. It's something that I am sorry, not sorry about. I always believe that things are going to be better. I can't help myself. Yeah, I will say that, from somebody who has some actual real honest to gosh training in this field, yes, there is a lot of room for a capitalist society to support the interests of both an economy and ecological complexity, because sustainability is efficiency, right? So much of our economic activity is aimed at optimizing efficiency, and pollution, waste, right? Externalities, these are inefficiencies, right? These are things that our market should address. Not just because it's the right thing to do and it keeps people safe and it keeps people healthy, but also because it's actually good for business and good for the economy. It truly blows my mind that from even in this day and age, there is an ongoing, monologue, I'll say, a propaganda that the economy and our environmental interests are at odds. That's not true at all, right? Truly, there is so much data on, air pollution abatement, right? We've had enough studies on that, sustainable supply chain decisions, green marketing even. These are things that are really, really, really good for business. Because you get a double bottom line. You get to improve the efficiency of your processes, and you get to make the world a better place. And actually, in the modern consumer era, that actually does matter. Our generation and the generations coming up behind us actually do research what they buy, and they care about the sustainable impact, whether it's local, whether it is, there's any sort of, public-private benefit or, anything like that. This is actually a conversation that I have with enterprises all the time, right? As much as, I am an advocate because I can't stop myself, I am an environmental activist because I believe passionately in this, and I have the opportunity and the resources as an entrepreneur and a digital marketer to, build a platform for myself. It doesn't pay the bills. This is a passion project. I do a lot of consulting in this. I talk to a lot of businesses and a lot of enterprises about this, why they should be going green, and it's about their bottom line. So, I'm a big believer in that, and I think that even though for some reason there has been some gap in the sort of the political discourse and sort of kind of like the politics of regulation in terms of whether the economy can handle environmental regulations. I mean, it's just really not how it works from somebody who's out there talking to, C-suite boardroom people, right? It's
Right.
Even the oil companies in Nigeria who have been responsible for, unspeakable contamination across the Niger Delta region are right now concerned about like, okay, we got to clean up our act because climate change regulations are coming.
Right.
To figure it out now. And, regardless of the fact that that's not coming from the top down, right? That we're not seeing our political leadership perhaps, or our economic leadership, or, kind of like the most vocal parts of our corporate leadership really talking about, what's happening here. Green technology and green enterprise is current best practices, and this is from somebody who has this conversation with people every day.
That's fantastic. Samantha, I'd like to wrap things up now, but I wanted to thank you very much for the time you took out of your day to speak to our class. Class, Samantha, as I said at the beginning, is a champion. She's a fighter. She's a role model. And one question that I'd wanted to ask her, but I think I've already answered, is can one person make a difference? And if any of you think you can't, look at Samantha. She is out there making a difference. One person absolutely can. She does it on a daily basis. So again, Samantha, thank you. And to give you one more opportunity in case a student wanted to find your book, or as you mentioned, reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Sure, thanks again. Yeah, you can reach me across my social media platforms at Be Decent Book. You can also reach out to me directly on LinkedIn, or you can visit my website, bedecentbook.com. I'm always happy to hear from you. I'm always happy to, have conversations and, hop on my calendar, whatever, especially for students. I know that career paths are winding and confusing. And for some reason, there's a career ladder metaphor out there, which is just absurd. Careers are not ladders. Don't buy into that, And so, yeah, my book is going to be out March 31st on Amazon. But more so, I really just hope that, that you'd reach out and engage with the platform. That's really what it's all about. Advocacy, sharing. I want people to feel empowered. No matter what's going on out there in the world, it can be so overwhelming. I want people to feel empowered to engage in virtual activism and whatever they may feel, strongly about. My issue is green tech, but, whatever their particular, passion may be. And also just know that, the solutions are out there, no matter how big the problems may seem.
I agree. Just because we lack the technology or we lack the current knowledge doesn't mean that we should mistake no answers in practice for no answers in principle. Thank you very much, Samantha, for your time. It's been great talking with you.
Thank you, Professor. I appreciate your time as well. Connect soon.